It is Tuesday, September 5th, 7:38 a.m. in Maui, Hawaii, not California. And we are in the second line of our 64-63 transit. So we have gate 63 before completion, confusion. Transition, like birth, requires a determined strength for passage through. And the second line is qualification. In the exaltation, we have an inner development which recognizes what qualities are essential for transcendence and the awareness that without them actions will fail. Inner development that can end the confusion over what makes sense. And in the detriment, we have constantly in action, it wastes the very qualities and resources that it will need, getting lost in the confusion and burdening the psyche. Okay. Head pressure, by the way, is all about the pressure to know. And 64 before completion is all about the past. So it's this, I kind of see it as like a filming everything, and then you have like a whole mess load of videos on your phone, for instance, or you're in your brain, and then there's the pressure to push them down into the mind. There's pressure to put them into gate 47, which is then the editor or the one that like chops them up to make a cohesive story. So it's the pressure to be confused, the pressure to feel what happens before completion. And so in the exaltation, again, we have the inner development that can end the confusion over what makes sense. And we also have the detriment of getting lost in the confusion and burdening the psyche, which regarding the transits, unless you have gate 64, line 2 in your chart, or gate 64 in general, do not be alarmed by the extra confusion. Do not be alarmed by the burdening of the psyche. Do not be alarmed by, or do not be too excited also by the inner development that ends the confusion over what makes sense. Because once this transit moves on, once the sun moves into the next transit, this goes away for most of us. So if you have gate 64 or you have gate 63, again, this is going to be part of your chart. So it's a great opportunity to learn about these gates. And if you have gate 47, which goes up to 64, or you have gate 4, which goes up to gate 63, then this transit is going to create definition. And if you don't have it in the head and in the ajna. And so, again, you can think of these transits as they're here to program life. But since our programming has already been set, we have, these like waves of frequencies that are not necessarily here to program us so much as they are to help us contrast our own strategy and authority. So again, the theme is using the similarities that we can all feel in the transits to further distinguish ourselves and further step into our strategy and authority. Which, God, there was a great GIF. I'm going to go find it. I have to go find it. Nathan's been dropping some fire memes. Copy message link. No, that's not it. Hilarious meme. Copy image. There we go. Still new to Discord more. But this is so funny. It goes, when you're new to human design, ask for guidance and get told to follow your strategy and authority. It's funny too, because it's like I was making some videos about generators and how they're supposed to feel frustrated, and projectors how they're supposed to feel bitter, and manifestors are supposed to feel angry, and reflectors are supposed to feel disappointed because audio should be better. There is a the not self theme exists as a yin to the yang or the yang to the yin in a way that again continues to help us harmonize with ourselves and our signature. And we do live in this polarized world, although we also live in a unity consciousness. We do live in a polarized world, so it's important not to see the not self of frustration and bitterness and anger and disappointment. Those are not the enemy, really. The enemy is the ignorance of the not self. It's kind of like the not self is here is kind of like a wounded inner child in a way to let us know when we're off track. And our strategy and authority is the way of not only comforting the inner child, but bringing that inner child along. Because sometimes your inner child is locked up in the back, in the trunk of the car, tied up. And so, but they can also like scream and cause problems and things like that. Or sometimes they're like tied up in the back seat and they like reach forward and grab the wheel. But you don't really want your wounded inner child driving. They don't have the faculties of driving. But you might want to put them in the front seat, so that they can see things, and you might want to engage with them a little more. So again, there's this theme of the pieces of ourselves that are conditioned up to the point of learning about human design and receiving the tools to kind of free ourselves, that is tend to be made out as the enemy. Like you want to get away from that really fast, but the reality is that you're probably getting away from it too fast, and that you got to slow down and take some time with it. So with that being said, we got 2 gates in the head that are providing a lot of extra head pressure. So whatever you do with that inspiration, just make sure that it's not pulling you away from your natural circuitry. It's not pulling you away from your strategy and authority, but that it's actually allowing you to deepen into your strategy and authority, because that's really what this is all about. Oh, Onion, hello.
Good morning. All right, second line, I Ching.
Let's go.
Let's see, 9 in the second place means, that's why you were talking about vehicles.
Vehicles.
He breaks his wheels. Perseverance brings good fortune. Here again, the time to act has not yet come, but the patience needed is not that of idle waiting without thought of the morrow. Kept up indefinitely, this would not lead to any success. Instead, an individual must develop in himself the strength that will enable him to go forward. He must have a vehicle, as it were, to effect the crossing, but he must for the time being use the brakes. Patience in the highest sense means putting brakes on strength. Therefore, he must not fall asleep and lose sight of the goal. If he remains strong and steadfast in his resolve, all goes well in the end. So to me, this is like, second line being the hermit. It's like taking the time to hermit, to build up the strength, or to build up the knowledge to effect the crossing, as it's saying here in in the I Ching, and knowing when to use the brakes and when to speed up, like as if you're driving through rain or snow. You got to be really careful. No, not slamming on the brakes when coming down a hill, because you'll just slide out and start spinning.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, also like returning again to that whole not self thing is like inner development that ends the confusion. The inner development is accepting that confusion is a part of life, or breaking your wheel is a part of life. And instead of asking why, like a lot of people want to ask this question, why did this happen? Why did that happen? And it makes much more sense to ask the question, what happened? What's happening to me? As opposed to why, because why is like, you can make up any story that you want, be it some like golden utopian delusion or some dystopian depressing story. You can make up whatever story you want. Ultimately, what the mind really wants to know is what happened. What are the factual things that happened? And then you can start to, what do I judge about what happened, or how do I feel about what happened? But to let the mind, I always talk about the mind like this dog. Like the dog, you got to throw the stick, you got to tire the dog out. Otherwise, the dog is just running zoomies in the living room while you're trying to sleep. So that's the sun. 63 is in the earth after completion, doubt. So this is looking forward into the future, and the inspiration or the pressure to figure out what's going to happen. It's like such a cosmic joke that these both appear in the same
Right.
in the
It's
same
like
transit.
before completion and after completion.
In the spiral of life, all ends are beginnings. Line 2, structuring, the establishing of a large framework through which the achievements can be expanded and shared, compensating others for their contribution while maintaining control of direction. The pressure to share one's doubts with others while still maintaining control. Detriment, instability in achievement that when the positions of authority lead to arrogance and the desire to keep others away from the center of power. Doubts in achievement that can lead to suspicion of others. So that to me is like vulnerability, basically. Like, you become more suspicious of power the less human that they seem. Or you see this a lot in social media, these like gurus and teachers and masters who put this image out there of this like lotus eater, and they're saying stuff like, you have to transcend your anger, and you have to just meditate into your frustration. And I'm not really like that. I'm like, yo, if you're angry, go punch a punching bag, or if you're sad, like cry your ass off, because ultimately what you're doing is you're allowing yourself to train a non-reactiveness, as opposed to just like saying that you're non-reactive, to actually be non-reactive through the training of it and through the voluntary exposure to the thing that you fear. Because again, a lot of the time the mind is so afraid of stuff that's not even there, whereas the spleen is really only afraid of stuff that's actually there. So there's a difference between like splenic fear and mental fear, which mental fear you can imagine fears. Splenic fears, you can't imagine splenic fears. There's either a real danger or there's not a danger. It's kind of like that Will Smith movie where they're like after Earth, and there's these like creatures that can smell fear.
Yeah.
And in the trailer, Will Smith is, his son is like running, doing parkour in the jungle. And he's like, fear is not real, but danger is real. And fear alerts you to danger. He says it way more eloquently. But that's basic. That's the basics of it. Is fear is an awareness, but danger is an actual thing. And so when you ask yourself what instead of why, you can start to see or discern the difference between, am I afraid of this, or is there danger here? Because if there's danger, then the fear is appropriate. But if there's not actually danger, the fear is inappropriate.
Yeah. Looking at like the keynotes here, the pressure to share one's doubts with others while still maintaining control. It's like being in a fight or a sparring match and getting rocked pretty good, and being able to maintain control, not get angry and act from anger.
Mm-hmm.
So when you start acting from anger, it's like where you just lose that control, and it's like now everything's getting through because you're not paying attention to what's happening on the other side of things.
Right.
Whereas like the doubts and achievements can lead to suspicion of others. Yeah.
Doubts in achievement that can lead to suspicion of others.
Yeah, when you start doubting yourself, you're suspicious of anybody else's. Because if you're not sure of yourself, how can you be sure of anybody at all?
True. And then also, like, certainty has a sense within human design. Some people are aware of not certainty. So it's like, I'm not certain, but I definitely know where I'm not certain. So again, figuring out what is right for you by figuring out what is not right for you. And then also, again, in terms of decision making, the head is not here to help us really make decisions. Hey, Prana.
What's up, Prana? Yeah.
What's up, Tim? Wild Blue, No Name. Jatinia. Diamond Eye. A bunch of y'all dropped in here. What's up? Yeah, I mean, it's like pressure to share one's doubts with others while still maintaining control, as well as like there's an agenda within everything. And so to be honest of the what the agenda is with yourself is such a fourth wall to break through. And again, because this is a transit, it's like the pressure to share one's doubt with others while still maintaining control. That may not even necessarily be yours, right? That may just be something moving through the transits. And so again, don't act on that. Don't like share vulnerability just because you feel the pressure, or don't share your doubts just because you feel the pressure to do it. It's much wiser to consider, like, oh, okay, is this pressure mine? Can I feel it? Is it me? It's the transits. I just watched that show. It's talking about doubts and transits. Like, oh, okay, great. So
Yeah.
no one's asking me. There's nothing to respond to. No one's inviting me. I don't need to inform anyone. It hasn't been 28 days. It's funny. It's like the reflector strategy is like a joke, low key, for me as a reflector. Oh, Tim, bro. When I doubt myself, it also keeps me from being able to show others how I appreciate and respect their presence. Yeah. So, again, the doubt is like, it's a whole gate. It's a whole pressure to again further learn about the collective, because the mind is one that is an outer authority that like looks to the outside world. And so if we use that as a component of our circuitry rather than the entire circuitry of ourselves, exactly, doubt can lead to understanding. Whereas, if there's a snake on the path, it's like, you don't freak out that there's a snake. You just realize, oh, okay, so I can go a different way. And then now you're more mindful of the snakes again, you're mindful of the danger as opposed to being paralyzed by the fear. Yeah. Onion says, that's my major lesson now. I don't want to believe that my mental fears were all for nothing, but I have learned in a way that they kind of were. Big time. Like, you get to see the fears of your parents, and then also the fears of, the human species in general, and what dangers were opposed or were present. And something in psychology that's kind of like a rule of thumb they have is, if something that happened to you over 18 months ago is still triggering that danger response of the spleen, fight, flight, fawn, or freeze, which fawn, by the way, is to like people please, which I thought was a cool addition. We talked about that last time. But if it was over 18 months ago, then ultimately, according to the mental frameworks, like that should have been processed and moved through, and it shouldn't be a lens that you carry around with you all the time. And so anything over 18 months ago that happened that is still in your system and that is still causing that fight, flight, fawn, or freeze response, that's definitely something to start exposing yourself to in in like a regulated and safe way, so that your mind can dismantle some of those neurological connections, and that you can be free to sense actual danger in front of you, as opposed to the ghost of it coming back to haunt you. Eating time.
All right. Gate 63, 6 in the second place means the woman loses the curtain of her carriage. Do not run after it. On the seventh day you will get it. When a woman drove out in her carriage, she had a curtain that hid her from the glances of the curious. It was regarded as a breach of propriety to drive on if this curtain was lost. Applied to public life, this means that a man who wants to achieve something is not receiving that confidence of the authorities which he needs, so to speak, for his personal protection. Especially in times after completion, it may happen that those who have come to power grow arrogant and conceited and no longer trouble themselves about fostering new talent. This, as a rule, results in office seeking. If a man's superiors withhold their trust from him, he will seek ways and means of getting it and of drawing attention to himself. We are warned against such an unworthy procedure. Do not seek it. Do not throw yourself away on the world, but wait tranquilly and develop your personal worth by your own efforts. Times change. When the 6 stages of the hexagram have passed, a new era dawns. That which is a man's own cannot be permanently lost. It comes to him of his own accord. He need only be able to wait. Yeah, that's still like effective in the in the hermit line. This like goes hand in hand with the other one. It's like take that time to wait patiently for somebody to is that Eric? What's up, Eric?
Yeah.
Come like
wait patiently for Eric to come return our curtain that is blown away.
Oh, Eric, bring me my curtain. I miss you.
That's an interesting. I love the I Ching in so many ways, for like the visuals that it inspires of just like
the curtain.
The thing that you don't want to be seen is suddenly exposed.
Mhm.
And the thing that makes that worse is chasing after the curtain and rushing to try and hide it, as opposed to just being like, ah, my curtain has blown away, and trusting one of your servants to come bring you your curtain back.
Yeah.
Oh, it's funny. Like, because, like with the I Ching, when this was written, not everyone could read. You know what I mean? It was a whole different class system. And it'd be really interesting to see what, and I can actually go look at when, here, I'm gonna do a little, I'm gonna look at when the I Ching was written.
One
1000 BC to, I think it's in Rave Cosmology.
Oh.
Boom, Rave Cosmology. And looking at the, here we go, the big cross. So it was written during the cross of rulership. My cross.
That's AD. Go up.
Oh,
BC.
1000 BC. Okay, right there. Wait.
BC, the key 51. Cross of penetration.
Oh, interesting.
Wait, does that say the cross of sleeping phoenix?
That's the cross of Phoenix.
Oh, that would be. So
Cross
there's
of
two
penetration.
crosses.
There's a key and a lock, which I actually don't even understand what I said.
Oh.
Yeah. Cross of Sleeping Phoenix. Oh, interesting. Well, that was more confusing than I thought it would be. But yeah, I Ching was written long ago when times were different, and times are very different now. And so for us to, kind of update some of those interpretations, and again ask them, like, it'd be really cool to see like what was going on during the time of the writing of the I Ching, because in a way, at least, kind of what we're doing here is trying to modernize that, because life works in patterns, and sometimes the patterns are so much larger than just day night. I mean, almost all of the patterns are much longer than day night.
Right.
Looking at the whole span of a human life is one suction inside the grander, or one like chord within the entire song, and then entire lifespan could just be like a verse within a song. Like, you think about like the Bible and the Quran and all these ancient texts where it's like, verse 1 of 3,000. The fourfold Song of Solomon. I actually don't know what that is. Song of the Self. What is this, Dragon? Send me some song of. What are you doing, Dragon? Send me some videos. Cool. But yeah, so again, we have qualification is 64.2 and structuring is 63.2. And so again, we're working with doubt and confusion. And it's still not necessarily time to act, again, unless your strategy and authority is like act. That's when you learn to deepen your understanding of your own strategy and your own authority, your own circuitry, by becoming aware of all of the noise and all of the moving parts and all the transient parts. Like, right, like something might come into your vision, but if you let that distract you from your goal or the place that you're going, you might end up following that thing off trail, right? Yeah. And a lot of the times it's like I use this example a lot when people are like, I'm training people and they're like, oh, I like, I smoked or I drank or like I slept with my ex and I feel like I just jumped off a cliff. I'm like, okay, well, first of all, you just took a step off, maybe a couple steps off, or maybe you just laid down on your path, right? Which is totally fine. But the problem that you will run into eventually is if you catastrophize a step off the path or a moment to rest, then eventually you will jump off a cliff, metaphorically speaking, and you will have to climb up a cliffside in order to get back on your path. And so it's one of these things where, again, what is happening to me is so much more, helpful for the mind than why is this happening? Right? Because again, that's a hole that can just be dug forever and ever. But what has happened here is, I took a couple steps off the path. Okay, well, what do you want to happen now? Well, I want to get back on my path. Well, okay, where's the path? The path is right there. And where are you? Not on the path. Okay, great. We've accepted that. We can change our direction and we can get right back on our path.
I would say go ahead and post it here.
Yeah. Here. Sweet.
Yeah. For me, I just like relating. Oh, it's Aubrey Marcus.
The hell?
I think I've listened to this one. It's a good one. For me, just always relating the transit to what we're talking about is what's going on in my life. Now I'm like more certain of the next steps of what to take for my Kung Fu training, for instructor training. And it's funny how life has just offered me this opportunity. It's like, oh, you don't have a job right now. What are you going to do? I can practice a lot more Kung Fu because I got a lot of free time.
Which, what do we say this? Qualification and structuring.
Yeah. It's like hermiting to know that I've got the qualification, not sharing it with others openly, having the curtain, or if the curtain flies open, it's like, okay, just keep moving and keep being on the path. And the curtain will come back as I'm ready to like move forward in my qualification and structuring myself to be able to then present it and share it with others.
I dig it. What is the relation between Kung Fu and calisthenics?
There could be one. The closest relation that I can think of is like the I Ching Ching, which is similar to I Ching, right? But it's the yoga-like postures that Buddharma taught to the Shaolin monks way back when. It was like the first thing that Kung Fu had developed in, which is 49 yoga-like postures that are done with dynamic tension to focus on building different parts of the body. And they're very simple for the most part. They start off really simple, and then you're doing all these crazy shit like headstand where you're touching your toes back to your head and a back bend from headstands and all this crazy shit. Other than that, I don't really know. There's not really a correlation between calisthenics and the way that I can view it and Kung Fu.
I got something on that.
Yeah.
Like, I understand calisthenics as the foundation of calisthenics, right, is working with your own body weight and working with momentum that you're able to generate. And so me coming from like a martial arts background and then learning biomechanics, there was a lot of overlap in the sense that, calisthenics made me very familiar with like the weight of my arms or like the weight of my torso and the momentum that I could generate with certain movements. And so, I think in both Kung Fu and calisthenics, there's a certain sensitivity that you have to download over time. And one thing about muscles as opposed to tendons is that the strength takes 3 times as long to develop in tendons as it does to develop in the muscles. And same thing with healing. Like if you rip a tendon, it takes 3 times as long to heal, as opposed to if you tear a muscle, it takes however long it takes to heal. But the key ultimately is like time and effort, right? In the sense that, he was talking about the, what was it? I Ching Ching. You probably don't learn right out the gates, right? Yeah, you start with the basics and you practice the basics. And then Kung Fu also means time and effort. And so it's, it's something that both of these require you to devote in time and energy to practicing the same move over and over and over. And that really is what to master is, not one guy who knows 1,000 moves, but one move that has been practiced 1,000 times or 100,000 times. And so are you a calisthenic?
10 years is a good start.
Right. Yeah. 10 years is a good start in Kung Fu, or so I've been told. Specifically Tai Chi. Yeah. Well, and then there's that like social pressure of like Kung Fu is sick as fuck, right? And so
we all love Jackie Chan, we all love Bruce Lee.
Yeah, and same thing with yoga. Like yoga is sick as fuck. And so, I remember my yoga journey. I was pretty strong because I did martial arts for a long time, but I wasn't really trained in handstands or some of these inversions that I eventually started practicing and would kind of like, I kind of tore something out, but like don't show it because there's cute girls in yoga pants here and I don't want to look like a little punk. Anyway,
what is this interesting 3-5 is coming to mind? What is the interesting?
Oh yeah, so I'm a 3-5, and again, that's part of what I've learned is like I've definitely learned from a lot of my injuries um, in yoga and martial arts and even in biomechanics. But, I haven't really been injured as much in mechanics as I have in many other um, modalities. Calisthenics for sure injured myself quite a bit trying to do those like the muscle ups and stuff. Again, it's just like, you know, taking note of again what is happening in the body and um, proprioception, interoception, awareness of what's happening inside the body. Proprioception is obviously not like swinging yourself into the into another bar, but also as a third line, like I banged my toe this morning, which was also in the meme chat. The meme channel is lit as fuck, by the way.
Yeah.
Memetropolis, guys. I don't know if you guys have discovered that one. There's a lot of channels in here, but that's a fun channel. But it's eaching time, and gotta get on to some other things. So let's go ahead and throw that eaching.
Yeah, let's do it. Just put my hair up. It's hot. All this tea. My body temperature rising.
I know, right? But yeah, repetition of the same movement is big. It's just big in life. Nature has gone through these same 4 seasons, God knows how many times, and
how many times as babies do we stand up and fall over and stand up and fall over and stand up and fall over?
Many times. Many times. My baby has fallen many times,
and now she loves it.
And now she loves, yeah, and that's the thing too. Is like we don't react and like, oh no, because then she's gonna be like, oh, I messed up, or like I'm afraid, or I'm in danger, or I'm hurt. Because they're just like no conscious mind, right? It's all unconscious mind, so they're just sucking up everything like a sponge. So Yong. So now we're throwing some coins to generate a hexagram. Greater yin for ourselves and for everyone watching here. So hold something in your mind if you'd like guidance or just be present. If you don't have anything that you particularly need guidance.
Yeah.
Which that was something that I definitely learned when I started reading tarot cards. A lot of the times in the beginning, I was asking all these questions, a lot of like head najna stuff going on, and from that point, as I started to get all my questions answered, I stopped asking questions and I just asked to be shown what was for me, and I see that as like a level of conscious detachment from what I wanted to happen, and a deeper presence with what was happening.
We just really got the thunder again.
We got thunder again?
Yeah, the arousing.
It's the second time we
So whenever we have one changing line, do we focus on that line?
Yep.
All right. So the second line. 6 in the second place means we got 51, which is the arousing. It's thunder on thunder. 6 in the second place means shock comes bringing danger. 100,000 times. Yeah. You lose your treasures and must climb the 9 hills. Do not go in pursuit of them. After 7 days, you will get them back again. What the hell? 7 days? This is new. I haven't really seen this. That's cool. This pictures a situation in which a shock endangers a man and he suffers great loss. Resistance would be contrary to the movement of the time, and for this reason unsuccessful. Therefore, he must simply retreat to heights inaccessible to the threatening forces of danger. He must accept his loss of property without worrying too much about it. When the time of shock and upheaval that has robbed him of his possessions has passed, he will get them back again without going in pursuit of them.
Wow.
So
that's
hermiting away when being shocked.
That's a really odd parallel to the 63.2.
Right. Yeah, it's like not going towards the completion. It's hiding away from the shock or the aftershock.
I guess what I'm experiencing too is like, there's that saying like you don't know how important something is to you until you lose it. And you know, you don't necessarily have to lose something to start appreciating it. Which, like, you know, here in Maui, just last month there were massive fires and people lost a lot of property, and there was a lot of people in shock.
Yeah.
And you know, still are a lot of people in shock, and you know, we're doing stuff about it, but also, you know, how can we heal ourselves of this sickness, which is the this idea that this stuff shouldn't be happening, as if nature or death isn't a normal thing. And you know, it's probably because we spend so much time inside four walls rather than being out in nature as often. This message is really for me to go hug a tree and be out a little bit more, because I've been spending a lot of time
Come out in nature, brother.
indoors.
Let's go to a beach or something
Yeah, that actually sounds like it. Oh, that might be it.
after our meeting with fellow brethren.
Maybe, or maybe before. Who knows? We'll check in with the family, see how it goes.
Yeah.
But anyway, guys, that's gonna do it for us. Big love to y'all. Keep the conversations going. Like, I've really been loving just, you know, some of y'all been asking really intelligent questions, and some of y'all have really intelligent answers and whatnot. Again, it's not about right or wrong. We're pretty adamant about using human design as the framework to view everything, and doing our best to keep conversations relevant to the channel that we're in. One thing that's also really helpful, if you guys could help enforce this, because I'm seeing it a lot with the new people that are coming in, make sure that they're posting their body graphs in the body graph gallery. And then let's just start to make it a culture where if you ask a question, ask for people, especially if it's like a personal question, all right, primarily if it's a personal question, ask for people to respond to that on your body graph gallery. So, you know, you can copy the link from your body graph gallery, the post in the body graph gallery that has your body graph there, and you can ask the question and then post your link right after it. So that way people know, oh, okay, there's the question. I'm going to go click on their body graph and I'm going to respond on the on their body graph. And this is just so that, you know, none of the insights that get shared through your asking get lost in the threads, because they will get lost in the thread.
Yeah.
Elizabeth, thank you so much for being here. Welcome, welcome.
Yeah, no blame for being a first timer.
Yeah.
We all were first timers at one point.
Exactly.
Know? And right now I just looked, we have 1,243 people in here, which is fucking sick.
That's crazy.
And yeah, like for us who have been around longer, if we see something, just point it out and help support. And it's not meant to be like like you've done fucked up. It's like, no. We just want to help each other learn.
Yeah. And you know, admittedly, like the Discord, there's so much going on here, but in a lot of ways, this is like a fraction of what's going on within each individual within this Discord, you know? So again, overwhelm is a natural part of life, right? Children are overwhelmed. They get overstimulated. They get overtired. And, you know, for like myself as a father, one thing that I had to reconcile with myself is, even though I'm 30 years old, daddy is only 10 months old. And so I can't be treating daddy under the same rules as Marco, because Marco is 30 and dad is only 10 months old, right? And so if you're learning about human design, some first couple months, not even taking their first steps, they're just like, help, figuring out how to breathe,
feed me,
not like they're dying. So, you know, I'm like 8 years into the experiment. So I'm like a sick ass 8-year-old, like not even Tommy Pickles. He's a baby, but you know, I'm like Angelica, maybe. I don't like Angelica. I'm 8 years old into this experiment. Prana seems like a fucking ancient immortal being, because his dad was part of Ra's first cohort, which I think is really cool.
Yeah, so he came out the womb.
Yeah, he came out the womb like knowing about human design. But you know, you can feel that, and there's no way, period, to advance yourself faster than 1 second at a time. And there's no real benefit of being further along in your experiment than you already are. It's like, you know, if you got a scooter, like a Razor scooter, you know, the ones that like always hit your shins. If you're a Razor scooter, you know, first month or two in your experiment, and you're in a race against, you know, Formula One race cars, it's like, that's not your race.
Yeah.
That's not your race. And it's also not even a race at all. But if you attempt to race that, you could become exhausted and discouraged, to the point of like not even wanting to use the system. So again, the overwhelm is natural. And that's the beauty of a culture, is that we have a culture that is welcoming, but there's also a structure that is to be followed, and we'll help you follow that structure, because we're also like experimenting and creating. Like there's no, I mean, there are a couple human design discords, but none that I'm running. And so as a reflector, Prana was like, I'm gonna toot my own horn here, was like, it's so cool to have a reflector at the center of a community, a human design community, because a lot of the times the reflector is like an add-on to the community. Like Ra had a lot of reflectors around him, but Ra himself was a manifester. A lot of generators and projectors be out there, sharing human design information. And here I come, just like this heretic, and I'm just like, hey, we're going to do it a little bit different. And I'm still sharing it through like the normal, familiar mediums, but this is something rather unique that I'm excited about. And yeah, one more plug, guys. If you haven't seen, I have a autograph here on my my hoodie. My partner has created this, and actually, she's the reason why it's called Evolve.
Mm-hmm.
That was her brand. Do I have anything on the back here?
Yeah. Turn around, stand
This
up.
was like one of the first. This is like one of the first hoodies
Human design
that that my partner made. That I'm so stoked on her creations. And this is a dirty shirt, but if you guys want, that's not the shirt. If you guys want some human design garb, I actually have to put this on my website. That's not the shirt either.
Check out, what is it? Evolve on
Etsy.
Etsy. Yeah, Evolve on Etsy.
But I'll post it.
There.
I have to put it on my website too. Actually, it's a good. I'm gonna make a note of that. But yeah, I'll post a link here if anyone wants to get some human design stuff. She does customs and things like that as well. Well, that pen sucks. All right. Anyway, plug over. Thanks, you guys. Big love to y'all. Yeah, there we go. Thank you.
Request to speak.
Go ahead, let her up.
What do you have to say?
Oh. Might have been an accident.
Okay. Thank you all. Love you. Have a wonderful day. Plug the Etsy shop later. You'll have a wonderful time. Goodbye.